அப்போவே 30 வருஷம் நாங்கள் தண்டனை அனுபவிச்சிருக்கோம். அது உங்களுக்கு பத்தலைன்னு நீங்கள் நினைக்கிறீங்களா? நாங்கள் 3 நாளிலேயோ 3 நிமிஷத்துலேயோ இல்லைன்னா 3 வருஷத்துலேயோ நாங்கள் வெளியில் வரலைங்க.
And others were released after 32 years in prison. Initially, they were convicted and they were sentenced to death. In 2000, Nalini's death penalty was overturned to life imprisonment, and subsequently, death penalty of the other convicts were also converted to life imprisonment. It's pertinent to note that the court has acquitted them of terrorism charges as per Tada.
The ADMK stand was very clear. When Porchitalavi Amma took the call, it was on humanitarian grounds. It was no way seeking exception against the law. After the death sentence were commuted to life and they were languishing in the prison close to 2 decades, that's where we petitioned. Our leader petitioned and say on humanitarian grounds you have to take a call.
We have been saying right from the day one that these convicts should not be released, and that is what our stand was. Whether it is BJP or the central government, we were very, very clear because it will have international ramifications. That's what we have said in our affidavit also.
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. The murder of former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in 1991 sent shockwaves around the globe. He was killed in a suicide bombing in Sri Perumbudur in Tamil Nadu by the terrorist group, the LTTE. Those behind the conspiracy were tried, convicted and imprisoned, but they also continue to serve as political props in Tamil Nadu, with both the Dravidian parties evoking sympathy for the convicts given their connection to the Tamil cause, which was at the center of the civil war in Sri Lanka. Over the years, the members of the Gandhi family have made public statements forgiving the convicts, but political leaders, including those from the Congress, have made the point that the murderers of those individuals who are holding or have held the highest political office in the land cannot be forgiven. It is a direct attack against the country. But on the 11th of November, the Supreme Court set free 6 convicts, effectively releasing all of Rajiv Gandhi's killers. The bench set the release on the same basis as the order which led to the release of convict Perari Valan, who was set free in May. The court, in fact, stated that the governor was bound to accept the recommendation of the Tamil Nadu government granting remission. Now the central government has filed a review petition challenging the Supreme Court order, and here is what the government has argued. First, the principles of natural justice have been compromised. The centre's review petition says there have been procedural lapses on the part of the convicts. The convicts did not make the Union of India a respondent. The centre was not afforded the adequate opportunity of a hearing. The assistance of the Union of India was of paramount importance. The court was deprived of facts going to the root of the matter. The case is different from the May 18th remission order of Perari Valan. 4 of the 6 convicts, and this is very, very important point here, 4 of the 6 convicts are in fact Sri Lankan nationals. Appellants had a more serious role in comparison to Perari Valan, and hence the 2 cases of remission cannot be compared, and the remission to foreign terrorists has international ramifications. This is similar to what the centre had said in 2018, and there are huge repercussions on public order, peace and tranquility. The big question we raise on the show tonight: despite the argument, the decision has been taken on humanitarian grounds. Can the national security angle be ignored? Has a dangerous precedent been set by releasing terrorists involved in the assassination of a former Prime Minister and 16 other Indian nationals? Joining me on the show, M. Radhakrishnan is Nalini's lawyer. We also have Ramaswamy Mayappan, advocate, Shama Muhammad, spokesperson of the Congress, Vathya Ling Lingam is DMK spokesperson. We also have Suman C. Raman, political analyst. I'm going to begin with you, Mr. Mayappan. The Supreme Court had invoked its extraordinary power under Article 142, citing the Pirari villain release order. But here, isn't it correct that those who have been granted remission, which has been part of this review, which has been filed by the centre in the Supreme Court yesterday, 4 are Sri Lankan nationals. So how can remission be granted to terrorists of foreign nation who had been convicted for the assassination of India's former Prime Minister?
Very true, Maria. So the review has been filed on multiple grounds. So the foremost of which here is that 4 of them are different to the other convicts. In the case that unequals can't be treated as equally. The 4 of them, primarily Murugan, Robert Payas, Sanatan and Jayakumar, are all foreign nationals. Can those foreign nationals be treated in the same manner as other Indian citizens can be? That's one issue that always comes up. Second issue is also their actions that were involved prior to their conviction. Why were they convicted? Their respective roles. Can that be treated on par with the same as Mr. Perarivalan or Nalini? And similarly, there is one more issue that we will have to consider in the compared to Perarivalan's case is the nature of commutation that they have received at the respective points in time. Once commuted, can their sentence be commuted even further is one. And another issue that the Union government has taken up on the review is that there was an order that was passed by the Ministry of Home Affairs in consultation with the CBI on the direction of the Supreme Court on 18/4/2018, rejecting the proposal made by the state government. Can, after the rejection of that proposal, which was taken cognizance by the Supreme Court and the writ petitions then being dismissed, can that order be overruled just by way of this petition? All these form consideration in addition to the Union of India not being given opportunity. There is one line that is recorded in the order where the Union did not play its role in this particular petition, unlike Perarivalan's when the 6 people had filed their respective petitions.
Okay,
but
so,
in this it is to
so
be
then
noted.
in that case,
Yes.
Mr. Radhakrishnan, how much of a setback do you see for your client? Because what the centre is saying in its review petition, calling for a rollback of the order, is essentially that there has been a miscarriage of justice here.
At the outset, I take very strong exception to the expressions terrorist and offense against the nation. So, this you criticize the Supreme Court's ruling in 1999. There is no terrorism, there is no offense against the nation, no crime against the nation. That's what the Supreme Court has categorically held in 1999. No provisions of TADA will apply to all the 7 life convicts. Why? All the 26 convicts who were initially sentenced to death. That's the Supreme Court judgment. First, we have to see under what provisions of law all of these people were convicted. They were convicted by the Supreme Court ultimately under Section 120B, read with Section 302 IPC. They were participants in the conspiracy which led to the death of former Prime Minister and 14 others. There is no doubt about it. But the Criminal Procedure Code clearly provides for the release once they complete 14 years of imprisonment.
No, but
whether
Mr.
they may be
Radhakrishnan,
foreigners,
how can
Indians.
No.
Yes,
how can
yes.
you draw a parity with earlier release of a convict such as Pirari Velan? He was an Indian national. And 4 of the convicts in this case who have been given remission are Sri Lankans.
Yes. No, I will tell you, in prison all are equal. That is settled long ago by Justice Krishna Iyer judgment in 1980. Foreigners and Indians are alike in prison. Everyone is having the benefit of all the facilities in prison. Everyone should be treated alike in prison. The same way,
but
they
Mr.
should be
Radhakrishnan,
released
here is
on the
an
same
act,
criteria.
An act against the nation. When a former Prime Minister is assassinated,
that's what I'm telling you. No,
it's
again,
an act.
No,
it's no,
sir.
This is an act which has international ramifications. So, if a terrorist is given remission, then it sets a bad precedent.
No, all these arguments were advanced and rejected by the Constitution bench of the Supreme Court It is not an act against the state, not an act against the nation. It is not a terrorist act. Kindly see the judgment once. So, otherwise, they would have been convicted under Tada. The state government would have no role to play.
Okay.
The state government cannot enter.
Okay,
once
I
they are
will
convicted under Tada. So,
I will ask
whether,
Ramaswamy Mayappan to respond to
No,
that.
I will-
Yes, please, go ahead.
No,
finish
only
your
one.
point. Yes.
No,
yes.
one. Only one. No, I will make it clear. Only one thing. You see, all the 7 people were found eligible to be released under the scheme of Tamil Nadu, humanitarian grounds. It is general amnesty scheme. We
Yes,
are having
that is what is
one scheme with
problematic
10
here.
years
And that's why I want to
imprisonment.
understand
Yes.
from Vaithya Lingam,
Nobody- yes.
the Tamil Nadu government
Yes,
had cited its powers
No, only
under
one-
Article
no, only
161
one
of the
moment.
Constitution.
No, I will-
I'm coming
no,
back to you. I'm coming back to you. And
No,
recommended
I
the
will
release of
I will
all
complete my argument.
to,
It is
to
only
the
one
governor.
thing. Yes.
But why seek release of all 7 convicts, including foreign nationals? This competitive politics
Madam, in
of
several judgment-
identity, don't you think that is
Madam.
becoming problematic here? Why
Madam,
foreign
they-
nationals?
Yes, madam, a convict is a convict. Whether he is a foreigner or Indian, way back in 2013 and till recently in Uganda National's case, our Supreme Court has ruled foreigners also to enjoy a right to life and liberty on Indian soil. That is the law established and ruled by the Supreme Court that is binding on all. They are also humans. They are not only because they are foreigners. They don't
How do you
lose
forget that this
their-
was an unparalleled act?
Not
An attack,
unparalleled.
an
That's what
assassination of Indian Prime Minister.
I am citing several parallel cases involving Ugandans, other nationals committing crimes in Indian soil. They were treated as humans, not like animals. You see, this step of BJP union government is vindictive and inhuman because the indifferent attitude of BJP government was seen passing of the CAA, where they omitted Sri Lankans for applying for asylum.
No,
Even
but how is
asylum
that
seekers were
relevant
denied
here?
the
No.
right.
Suman
So
C.
that
Raman,
is the attitude of the
Suman C.
Indian
Raman, please
government.
respond to this. There is competitive domestic politics that was at play and continues to be at play between the 2 Dravidian parties here.
No.
Yeah, sir, please wait, sir. Let me speak. Maria,
take the same view.
Sir, please 1 minute. Maria, the issue is very simple. First of all, it is most welcome that the center has chosen to file a review petition. Perhaps this could even have been avoided had they acted with more alacrity earlier. You know that the center off the record did sort of dilute their position. In 2018-19, they strongly opposed the release of these people. And more recently, they said Tamil Nadu governor has to take a decision kind of thing, which is what led to the court pointing out the delay in the governor's taking a decision and thereafter
You are
ordering
saying
their
that there
release.
is procedural lapse that has happened.
Yeah, the center is right in pointing out that, filing a review petition and pointing out procedural lapses. But look, I think that political parties also need to come clean. I mean, even the Congress party in Tamil Nadu, is sort of, there are, say, elements within the Congress party who are not vehemently opposed to the release. So I think that political parties, it's in Tamil Nadu, the belief that this, the false belief, and in my opinion, that the Sri Lankan issue is a vote gathering issue, which has never been the case. Had it been the case, Mr. Vaiko would have become the chief minister maybe 2 decades ago. So I think that there is a false belief among the political parties. That is what leads to this competitive politics. Jayalalitha, out of the blue, there was no reason, provocation for her. Supreme Court had commuted the death sentence to life imprisonment in 2014. And then what does she do? She passes a resolution ordering their release.
Yes.
So I think that, that is where this entire issue started.
you have spoken
and
about the
remission
Congress
already
party.
has been granted.
Yes,
from
since you have spoken about the Congress
death
party,
penalty
I
to
want
life
to...
imprisonment. So how can a second remission be given?
Your second remission is problematic here. So let me ask Shama Mohammed. Shama Mohammed, the Congress party, when the order came, had said that this was unacceptable, erroneous and untenable. But the fact is also that the whole case got watered down the moment Sonia Gandhi said that she she had sought mercy. And then in 2008, the children of Rajiv Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, had forgiven, the assassins. Do you think this move of the central government is welcomed? And can the Congress be more vociferous now, particularly in Tamil Nadu? Because whatever said and done, DMK is your alliance partner. You can get their actions also corrected here.
Yeah, first and foremost, Maria, there was somebody on this panel who said that they are not terrorists. I want to tell them, Nalini, Perivaralan, all of them are terrorists come assassins. Now, the case over here is not about a normal individual. It's the former Prime Minister of this country. And the punishment to this is a message we are giving to the entire world. Nowhere in no part of the world, assassins or terrorists or former assassins or former prime ministers have been let free. Now, when you ask me the question of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, that is about death penalty, commute to life imprisonment. So in Europe, it's life imprisonment. In America, there is death penalty. So that has got to be either death penalty or life imprisonment. And we should be very harsh on these sentences because we shouldn't have any sort of precedent that you can assassinate, kill leaders and get away with, number one. Number two, for me, what is the precedent for the release of Nalini, the terrorist, and the rest of them is the Perivaralan case. Perivaralan in 2018, the case went from the state government of Tamil Nadu to the governor. The governor sat on it till 2021. And even the Supreme Court came out heavily down on the governor, said extraordinary. But let me come out and tell what Mr. Tushar Mehta, who is the Solicitor General at that point of time, representing the government of India and representing the governor. He told in court that we are going to come back about this in a week's time. So it is like, okay, his release will be thought of. At that point, the Solicitor
Shama, are you objecting to also what the DMK spokesperson has said on this panel, that the central government is vindictive, that it is against the Tamilian cause?
No, let me tell whoever the DMK panelist or whoever is on this panel.
Yes, let's have the two of them on the screen now, please. Yes, go ahead.
To see that
yes, please,
the government filed the review petition a bit late. And why? My question to the central government is they sat on it. I mean, the governor sitting on it for 2 years is basically the central government sitting on it for 2 years because they had a difference on it should go to the president and not the governor. I don't understand what that means. I mean, that's some novel idea because the governor is basically representation of the president in every state. Now, my question today is to the DMK party, what is the message? See, in this, I feel one should not play politics.
Absolutely.
One should look at it as the Prime Minister being stated. There's no BJP, DMK, Congress here. And as and terrorists, that we are not going to set them free. Yes, they will have
absolutely. India cannot compromise on national security and cannot appear to be soft on terrorists. Yes, but Shama, the concerns that have been shown by the Congress party, which you are showing, should also be communicated to your alliance partner, the DMK, which is in fact saying that this is wrong, that the review petition filed by the centre is wrong. Please go ahead, Mr. The DMK spokesperson, Mr. Vaidyanathan.
Yes. What I am trying to point out is whether it is Mahatma Gandhi's murder or Rajiv Gandhi's murder, all are the same. But then I don't see any loss of life is different. Whether it is father of the nation or former prime minister, a loss is a loss, a murder is a murder, and we all condemn it. But why Mahatma Gandhi's assassins were released after 15 years and nobody murmured, nobody made a murmur. Then why you distinguish and differentiate other persons who languished in jail for 30 years? That is a good question.
Okay,
Shama, it's a case of simple murder.
Okay, let's one moment. I'll ask Shama to respond first.
Should be released.
Let Shama respond and then I'll bring in Suman C. Raman.
Yes.
The DMK came out heavily when Bilkis Banu's murderers and rapists were recently released. And I agree with DMK on that. So why a different stance on this and why a different stance on Rajiv Gandhi's assassins? Your DMK is not making sense here. You have to understand he's not a normal person. He's the former Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
And he's supposed to be leader of Tamil Nadu. A chief minister has been assassinated. What are you going to do? You're going to give a release? Okay. I mean, no, we have to be strong and tough on this.
Okay,
We cannot
Sumansi Raman. Sumansi Raman,
Maria,
this vote
I
bank,
think in all
this
this,
vote bank
people are
politics that is
forgetting-
happening, yes, which is not making sense anymore.
This is not just a murder of a former prime minister. This is a mass murder of 14 people along with him. For
Yes,
God's
absolutely.
sake.
And
Everybody is going
Police
on
officers,
rants.
black
Sonia
and
Gandhi
commandos,
was given-
a 17-year-old college student, a 10-year-old
Forgive on behalf of
10-year-old
family.
child.
We remember,
We have
who
to
remember
answer to
voting?
them
We
as
remember
well,
all
their
the black
families.
Sri Lankans.
What about their
Exactly.
families?
How can Sonia Gandhi say that
Mahila
she is forgiving
Congress
on behalf
workers.
of 14 families?
Yes, how can she respond on behalf of 14? I agree with you completely.
Sorry, can I
No,
respond?
Yes, Shama, point being made here is valid. Let me repeat my question. I'll just take forward what Sumansi Raman has said. What about those 14 families, police officers, a 10-year-old child, 17-year-old college student, Mahila Congress workers? Their families are also seeking answer. And Sonia
is what
Gandhi
I'm-
cannot be
And they are not ready to
forgiving
forgive.
them.
Many of
They
them are not
forgiving.
ready to forgive. They have openly
Yes.
stated to the media.
Maria, I am with Suman on this. I am with you on this. These assassins come terrorists should not be released. They should be behind bars. But my question to the central government is, why did they go soft on this? They are supposed to be, Mr. Modi is supposed to be the strong man. I fail to understand why did Tushar Mehta,
Can I ask a question?
soft
Maria,
on that?
can I ask one question to Shama? Has
Why-
her Congress legislature party leader in Tamil Nadu condemned their release?
No, my question is why also the central government should have been very harsh, should not have allowed this release, and why the Supreme Court invoked Article 142 for assassins, for terrorists. It should be for human rights activists, for journalists. So many of them are languishing behind bars right now. So I fail to understand my justice system today in India, where these
Maria, if
people
I can.
have life in prison.
Maria, just two
Madam,
quick points here.
basically,
Maria,
all
the
the
Congress
speakers-
keeps raising an issue
because
with the
all the
BJP.
speakers
So the
are-
Congress was in office
Mayappan.
at the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Union government through the UPA alliance between 2004 and 2014. The mercy petition stayed with the Ministry of Home Affairs and there was no reference made, no opinion taken from the then president at that point in time. They delayed all the way up to 2014. And 2018 is only when the BJP came to power. They took an opinion. They rejected the proposal made by the government. So let the Congress not make it that it's a political party, that the BJP did not act on it. The Congress just stepped on it for good old 10 years. Now, leaving that aside, Maria, another thing. Constantly people keep saying that one, they're not a terrorist and all people had to be treated equally. All that the constitution and the criminal code says is people when being tried will have to be treated equally. That people here are not distinguished from citizens. But it does not talk about release. The prison manual treats everyone differently depending on the crime that they have committed, the nature of the crime. There is no uniformity between the person. You can't have unequals being treated equally. And there is another issue already. There is a DMK legislator who is already talking about passports being provided to these convicts who have been released. In fact, one of them has petitioned the state government asking him to sponsor his travel to the UK to visit his daughter. That is the nature and that is the position today. So you want, and one more thing was stated about terrorism. Terrorism and Terrorist
Maria.
Act is not only limited to the conviction under the TADA Act. Terrorism is defined and Terrorist Act is defined under other laws in India also. The incident is a terrorist act. Therefore, when you are complicit with it and you participated in the entire act, you were involved in a terrorist activity. Your conviction is based on multiple other grounds. That does not mean that you're not a terrorist anymore. Those 7 continue to be terrorists today and that is how they will remain.
Okay, Mr. Radhakrishnan.
You see, at least one should know the elementary principles of victimology. Victims, you are talking about victims. That is the responsibility of the state, not the responsibility of the prisoners or life convicts who are in prison more than 3 decades. So let us understand, either you agree with the Supreme Court that they are not terrorists, or you criticize Supreme Court, they are terrorists, I will not agree with the Supreme Court. That is different. Again and again calling them terrorists strikes at the root of Supreme Court judgment, Supreme Court's view. What is the right, one moment, what is the right the government of India has in the matter of Article 161 of the Constitution? 161 of the Constitution is the sovereign power of the state. Sovereign power of the state was used and these people were released. Not by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court simply approved. It is not the release by the Supreme Court. Don't, misunderstand the entire, the procedure. The procedure was very clear. On 9/9/2018, so a cabinet resolution was adopted.
Yes,
That cabinet
that's why,
resolution
Mr. Radhakrishnan,
was
my
binding on the
questions are
governor.
directed
Governor
towards
never
the Tamil
bothered.
parties.
One moment.
Because they are, if
No, you
anything,
forget. It
diluting
is not
this entire case and forgetting
is not
about the larger message that it is setting and the larger message that it is sending, that India India cannot appear to be soft on assassins of the former Prime Minister.
No, why do you?
Exactly.
No, why do you make it emotional? I don't understand.
No, it's
Whether
not about-
former Prime Minister,
that's what I'm saying. Don't
former
make it
Prime Minister,
sentimental.
you first wait. Kindly. No, you are making it. It's very unfair. You see, now as per Tamil Nadu scheme, they are supposed to be released. Supreme Court need not release them. Tamil Nadu government can release. They have already released. On 9/9/2018, they were released. Only the governor had failed to discharge his constitutional duty. That's why the Supreme Court came. What is this? All these things. They are released, supposed to be released. Even the present government would have released. What is this? Supreme Court is not released. So, in the absence of the cabinet resolution, Supreme Court cannot release at all.
Okay,
The
Suman
release
C.
was
Raman.
effected
Suman C.
only
Raman.
because of the cabinet resolution.
I have just
Tamil
enough
Nadu.
time for a few
Yes.
comments now.
That
Yes,
is
Suman
only
C.
at
Raman.
least fundamentals of law.
Look, two-
Only first year
no, no,
LLB
two-
student
two-
will know.
No,
First year LLB student will know
things,
what
Maria.
is 161.
I think 1 minute, sir. I think we should now be happy that these 6 people have also not been greeted with hugs and shawls by the Chief Minister. It would not surprise me tomorrow if they even sponsored the ticket for this gentleman this assassin to go to UK, Murugan. So I think it's a very, very sad situation where this kind of flirting with terrorism, which is what you have to call this, because quite clearly, and this is both the DMK and the AIDMK are equally guilty. I'm not going to single out one or the other. The whole process was in fact initiated by Jayalalitha for their release. Otherwise, we would not be where we are today. So I think that this kind of thing is dangerous. Tomorrow, what is to prevent parties in Punjab from starting to ask for the release of Balwant Rajona, the man who was convicted of killing Beant Singh, the former chief minister? After all, this is a former prime minister, and Mr. Beant Singh was the chief minister. So what is to prevent parties from going down that route? Where does this stop? I mean, had Kasab not been hanged, it is quite possible that some political parties might have called for his release.
Citing
where are we heading
humanitarian
as a
grounds.
nation?
That we are making mockery of the law here clearly. Yes,
Yes,
Shamat,
yes.
30 seconds and then the final words to the DMK spokesperson.
No, one last point.
Making-
One last
yes,
point,
yes,
Maria.
yes, yes.
They
Two
are
things-
going around
two
giving
things
media
I am
interviews
telling-
claiming they are innocent.
Yes.
Please
See,
understand that. They are
we
saying
not-
the CBI
see,
framed us,
making a
which is
mockery
not
of
the case.
law, making a mockery of law by two things I object. Two things I want on record. First,
Can I speak?
I condemn, I disagree with them with labeling them as terrorists, because the Supreme Court has convicted them for murder and not for terrorism, number one. Number two, don't repeat former Prime Minister. The father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, was murdered and his assassin was released after 16 years. Without, do you differentiate between Mahatma Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi and other lives? If you speak out fine, I can speak 1,000 things. Because
Now it remains to be seen what the DMK does with the centre going ahead with filing of this petition. Yes.
1.5 lakhs Sri Lankan Tamils were massacred. No murmur, nobody whispered.
All right, thank you so much for joining me, all the guests, Mr. Radhakrishnan, Ramaswamy Mayappan, Shama Mohammad, Vaidhyalingam and Suman C. Raman. The centre, remember, has filed a petition in the Supreme Court saying clearly that of the 6 people who have been released, there are also those who are foreign nationals, and hence there has been a miscarriage of justice. Now, let's see what happens and how this plays out in the Supreme Court. News and updates will continue on the other side. Thanks so much for watching.
She came to us with a complaint of severe backache and neck pain. She had difficulty in walking and moving her neck. Within 2 to 3 days, she responded well to treatment, and then we discharged her.
And welcome to part 2 of News Epicenter with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. The murder of Shraddha continues to haunt the nation, ladies and gentlemen. This young woman was strangled and her body was dismembered by her boyfriend Aftab in the month of May. Over the following weeks, Aftab packaged the body parts in a fridge and then scattered them in the Mehroli Chhatarpur forest area. So far, no recoveries have been made by the police, who only have Aftab's confession. A Delhi police team is also in Mumbai to map the crime and get statements from Aftab and Shraddha's friends and relatives. Sources say Aftab went to Mumbai twice after the murder. But before we head to the debate and decode this entire gruesome crime that has shocked the conscience of the nation, we're getting some breaking news from the Delhi police. Now, the Delhi police has issued a detailed statement on the murder investigation. Police say Shraddha and Aftab's home has been inspected by forensic experts and bones have been recovered from the forest area near the home. Blood samples from Shraddha's father and brother have been collected for DNA analysis. Electronic devices from the rented accommodation have also been analyzed by forensic experts, saying that those digital devices that belong to Aftab primarily are being analyzed by experts. Now, narco analysis will be conducted on Aftab in the next few days. That's the pitch coming in from the Delhi police, while police teams have been dispatched out of Delhi to map the lives of the two individuals. The Delhi police says at this juncture, it will be premature to provide any single theory which can stand the test of judicial scrutiny. That's the piece of breaking news coming in from the Delhi police, giving this entire litany of what all they have gathered so far. So what we are learning is that they have gathered bones from the forest area. They have done a detailed forensic analysis of the home where Aftab allegedly strangled Shraddha and then dismembered her body. What we are also learning is that electronic devices belonging to Aftab are also being analyzed by the Delhi police. Narco analysis will be conducted in the next few days. Remember, Aftab was given 5 days police custody by the court, and police teams are making this very clear point. It will be premature to provide any single theory which can stand the test of judicial scrutiny. I'm joined by my colleague Anvit Srivastava, who's getting us this piece of breaking news. Anvit, over to you. What more details can you get for us? What are your sources telling you from inside the Delhi police?
See, Ayushman, the Delhi police in this case is at a stage where they're all trying to make an effort to, establish this crime, the sequence of crime, and to map the entire crime. Now that they have got additional 5 days of custody of this man, we are learning that Delhi police will be taking him to Himachal and to Uttarakhand, where all he had stayed with Shraddha, is what he has confessed in his statement. Also, they'll bring back him to Delhi because one of the important links and one of the important names that has been coming up in this entire investigation again and again is Badri. Badri is said to be the contact who had allowed them a shelter in Uttarakhand as well, and he was the man who had apparently helped the couple take a house on rent in Chhatarpur also. And now it was just after 3 days that they shifted to Chhatarpur that this girl is murdered and chopped into pieces. Now, police are looking at a larger conspiracy here, trying to find out if this man had been this murder for a while, and that is what the reason was that he in first place elopes with this woman from Maharashtra, takes her to Himachal and to Uttarakhand, and then brings him to Delhi and kills her. Now, police are trying to find out whether Himachal and Uttarakhand trip were also a part of conspiracy, and he had plans to first execute this murder over there. And after failing, did he bring her to Delhi? Because coming to Delhi doesn't look like a plan to stay here, because it was 3 days after that this man kills her. Even though in his confession he has said that it was in a fit of rage and he was high on cannabis, and that is why he strangled her and just in order to hide the body, he chops it into pieces and then scatters it around the area where they had been staying. But the police have also not been able to bump into the weapon of offense. Also, two other crucial evidences that the police are looking into in this entire case are the body's head and Shraddha's mobile phone, which will also ascertain that where all she had been. So police are also in process of writing to telecom operators to find out what all had been the location of Shraddha's phone, so that this entire case can be mapped. Now they only have Aftab in their custody. He will be used for this because total focus of police right now is to map the crime and establish sequence of incidents which has been confusing ever since this case has surfaced.
Right. Thank you, Anvit, for getting us the latest when it comes to the Delhi police's investigation. But amid this entire tussle that has come to gather evidence to make a slam dunk case against Aftab, Shraddha's chats have also come to light, ladies and gentlemen, where she can be seen detailing the abuse and injuries, not just to her friends, but also her co-workers. Now, while cops gather evidence to strengthen the case against Aftab, this gruesome murder has brought to light the culture of silence surrounding abusive relationships. Both you and I may be knowing people who are stuck in such dangerous environments without the support or sense of agency to get out. Let's also remember Shraddha was a modern Indian woman, educated and employed, who was abused and traumatized but did not walk away. Not just her, even the ecosystem surrounding her was part of this dangerous culture of silence. Remember, there was no alarm from her parents, who were aware of this entire abuse. There was no alarm from her co-workers, who were also aware of the abuse. Remember, she shared with her manager that she was assaulted. There was no alarm from neighbors for months after the murder, who are now shocked that Aftab murdered and dismembered Shraddha in May, and they were none the wiser. Shraddha revealed her injuries to her friends and co-workers, but no one raised the alarm because some friends claim Shraddha asked them not to act. Let's listen into Rahul Rai, one of Shraddha's friends, who says that he and others helped Shraddha file a police complaint, but she herself dropped the case, saying this happens in relationships.
पुलिस चौकी को लेके गया, तुलिन पुलिस 2020 में तुलिन पुलिस चौकी लेके गया। लेके जाने के बाद में उसको कंप्लेंट लिखवाया, एफआईआर करवाया। इनसे एफआईआर कराने के बाद में तो हॉस्पिटल बोला जाने के लिए, तो हॉस्पिटल एक्चुअली नहीं गई, तो हम लोग घर पे लेके आए उसको। लेके आने के बाद में मैंने पूनम बिडलान ऑफिस पे लेके गया। लेके जाने के बाद में बातचीत वगैरह किए। करने के बाद में मैडम बोली कल आ जाओ, तो अभी हम लोग बोल के पुलिस उठवा सकते, उसको लेके आएंगे। तो वो बोली अभी नहीं, एक दिन होता है रिलेशनशिप में होता है ऐसा। तो दूसरे दिन बुलाया, तो दूसरे दिन बोला आई दूसरे दिन, तो एक्चुअली उसको बोले मेरे को डर है, मुझे जान से मार देगा, वैसा बोलने लगी एक्चुअली।
Right. So, as per Shraddha's friend, she faced that fear every day, but she refused to walk away from this relationship where she was assaulted, abused, and she continued to stay with him despite all the trauma that she faced. So let's try to understand this. Let's try to get into the mind of not just Aftab, but also Shraddha. What prompted her to stay in such a relationship, and what prompted that culture of silence around her, not just from her family, but also her friends and colleagues. I'm joined by Dr. Jayanti Datta, clinical psychologist on the broadcast, as well as Trisha Shetty, social activist. Dr. Datta, I'll come to you first. Please, whatever you've learned about, we've discussed at length about the mindset of Aftab, but let's discuss the mindset of someone like Shraddha. You've had a storied career when it comes to delving into the mind of individuals and their social circumstances. What is your analysis of Shraddha's mindset? Why did she stay in such a dangerous ecosystem after months and months of abuse?
See, when you get into the grab and you are under such an oppressive situation, and you have conflicts all the time. Is he going to rectify? If I give in to him all his demands, then will he be corrected? Secondly, you see, no crime occurs without a motive. The motives were definitely there. Specifically, when I said earlier also, probably Shraddha was staying under a constant fear that the harm is not only restricted to her, but it will be extended further to her family. The family must have been sounded. If you interfere, you bear the consequences. The chances are, you see what happens in such kind of situations. Every day, you intensify the fear component. And the fact that the girl was staying in the flat without raising any alarm, without trying to seek and help, I have my doubts under what conditions this boy used to leave her behind in the flat. Was she mobile? Did he break her bones in such a way that she was immobile? How did he leave her behind when he was walking away for his work? Secondly, when I learned that these kind of 20 girls, 25 girls were associated with him, was he commercially enticing them? Were they picked up because of a price? Or was he brainwashed before that there has to be certain features in these girls? They have to be from a particular community or something. This also has to be looked into. Shraddha could not have, sort of asked her friends and then walk away. This happens in marital discords also. When you are subjected to marital violence, this happens, They feel, all right, if I step back. But then, these kind of scenario, for such a long time, he had taken her to Uttarakhand, to other places, and I'm sure they were not having a very congenial kind of an atmosphere. I would like the police to investigate who is this man who was helping them to get these kind of, locations, or hire the flat, or stay there whenever they went out. It can't be just one man. There has to be a chain of events. Surprisingly, whenever we say we have zero tolerance, whenever these kind of atrocities are done on the women, now here you had the proof, you have the friends, you had an adult female inside the house who stayed there. I also asked, look at the rent agreement, you found that also. That's proof enough that Shraddha was with him. Then I said, credit card, just see who is utilizing the money. Definitely this boy has had the plan and somebody was helping him, to carry it out and then wipe out the this thing. Now another thing, if some people are trying to prove that he is a mental case, let me tell you, he is not a mental case. Having this kind of psychopathic tendency doesn't make you a schizophrenic. A schizophrenic would not be able to maintain this kind of a reality contact which he was maintaining and organizing. These kind of organizations, psychotic patients are not capable of. Thirdly, I would plead to all the brilliant advocates we have in our legal systems, please ensure that this way the girls are not killed. This is becoming a routine. When you send a message to the community that if you kill, chop off the body parts, strewn them all over, you would go scot-free. For heaven's sake, it's high time. We have had so many cases where the women were killed, chopped off into pieces, strewn all over. You cannot say that we don't have enough evidences. These evidences are good enough if you have a strong, the legal argument.
Absolutely.
These kind of things should not be allowed to go scot-free.
Absolutely. Trisha Shetty, I want to get to you on that point when it comes to what Dr. Datta is talking about, this societal malaise that we see. And we've seen multiple cases like this where you have an individual like Shraddha who shared her ordeal with her co-workers. She shared that ordeal with her friends. We heard from one of her friends who took her to file a police complaint, but she herself dropped all the charges. Do you believe that this culture of silence surrounding domestic violence, surrounding this marital abuse, is a social malaise we seldom talk about?
Yes, and more so when it comes to people who belong to higher stratas of society. So something you said, when you described the archetype of Shraddha, you said she's a modern Indian woman, she's educated. I must tell you, and I must tell everyone listening, having worked these cases for a time, a survivor could be anyone. It doesn't matter. And an abuser, critically, could also be anyone. An abuser does not have to be an uneducated person from the lowest strata of society. Very often we see actually the lowest stratas of society, people reaching out and asking for help. Now, when you talk about the malaise, right? Why is it fed? It's because as a society, we would rather talk about abusers when it's an unknown person, when it is a stranger in a dark alley. But the second an abuser is someone closely known to the survivor, that becomes a home matter. That becomes a family matter. That then becomes a matter of discomfort that people don't know how to address. So often then you start questioning, why is she still there? If she's still there, that means, is he really abusing her? Why didn't she walk away the first time? Then if she reaches out and says, if a survivor says, this has been happening to me for months, they'll say, why did you stay for months? Why didn't you walk away? So then you again get back into a cycle of victim blaming, shaming. And in these cases also, the relationship between the domestic violence of survivor and the abuser becomes a relationship of dependency, where they're dependent on each other. And further, then a relationship of isolation where the survivor, and in this case, unfortunately, the victim, feels that they cannot walk away, that they have isolated themselves from their friend circle, that they've isolated themselves from their family, from their work colleagues. So who do they reach out to for help? And critically, you have defended this abuser to your social circle, to your friends, to your family. You have vouched for this person's integrity. You have fought with your family members to be with this person. And then there is a layer of further shame and trauma to then say the person I'm defending, the person I'm saying I'm in love with, and who's in love with me is actually also abusing me. So imagine the mental trauma a survivor, and unfortunately in this case, the victim goes through, where one, they're being abused by someone who loves them, whom they love. Two, their relationship with their self-identity is reduced. The abuser keeps telling them, you deserve to be hit. You deserve to be abused. They feel they have no one to reach out to. They feel no one will get them. And they feel that they are stuck in this situation. And then comes a question of dependency, not just emotional, but also financial. Also, if you have a child involved in this situation, whom do you go to? So in this case, what's really important is, when we get these cases, we don't first, obviously, we connect them directly to police systems and police infrastructure. But first, we work on financial independency as well as their mental health care, trying to get them to a place where they're not responding from a place of trauma, where they feel more of themselves, where their confidence that has been systematically broken down, their self of identity, their self-image that has been systematically broken down, they can slowly rebuild. And that takes a long, long time. And so I think here in terms of support system, what people can do if they know that someone within their close circle is in an abusive situation is to, one, not subject them to further judgment, which will cause further alienation, is to, two, keep telling them that they are available for support. Whatever happens, that they are available for support, to not ask the person to leave the abuser, but instead keep reminding them what a strong support system they have. So they're not only dependent on the abuser for support.
Absolutely.
So I want to get help prevent the cycle.
Right. I want to get a view from Ellen Rao as well, former DCP of the Delhi Police. Sir, like we've pointed out on this show, Shraddha pointed out her abuse to her friends, her colleagues, and a lot of people in her ecosystem. In fact, some of her friends even went to the police and they helped her file a complaint, but she dropped those charges. When it comes to preventing such crimes, when the red flags are there in front of the police, is it the biggest challenge to convince the victim from going ahead and filing a case against the abuser? Because if the victim is out of the picture, then the case falls flat. Are the police's hands tied in such situations?
No, police hands are tied because, as admittedly, it was a non-cognizable report. The police was informed that there was some minor quarrel, and then later on this complaint that is non-cognizable. I heard her friend saying on the TV that NC was lost by her, but later on that was also withdrawn by her. But I think that at that time, that if there was some apprehension of great offences to be committed against her, then the police should have also sensed that thing. And then the most important fact was that the Shraddha should not have withdrawn that complaint if there was some so serious allegations against Aftab. So in this case, even friends also, they should have also assessed the situation, and if they were thinking that there's some serious thing can happen, then they should have insisted Shraddha not to withdraw that complaint. And if there was some insistence from the Shraddha or her friend, then definitely the police had an option to take preventive action against Aftab, and some preventive action, if could have been taken at that time, I think Shraddha could have alive today. So the police has definitely, you are saying, the tie, because unless and until there is some complaint, the complainant is not taking any interest in any complaint, then police has so many complaints to deal with. Not only this one complaint. When there are so many complaints and complainant is not cooperating or has withdrawn her complaint, like this in this case has done. So the police, I think in that case, police can't be blamed in that matter. But obviously, in this case, the evidence is only a circumstantial evidence, and that evidence can be connected with the scientific evidence. There are three types of evidences there. The primary evidence is that there should be some eyewitness to any offense, and the secondary evidence is that the circumstantial evidence, like in this case, are so many circumstantial evidence, and then these evidences will be tested in the laboratory of forensic science then that will become a scientific arrest. Yes.
Right. So from a preventive point of view, the police's hands are tied, especially when there's so much circumstantial evidence. Dr. Datta, I'll give you the final word. Now, when it comes to tackling these cases, when it comes to preventing such tragedies from taking place, what message would you like to give to not just parents, but friends and colleagues who know of a case like this and want to do something, but they don't know what to do?
See, what these perpetrators, what these kind of violent criminals do, they kill your self-esteem, they kill your self-confidence. My warning signs to the parents will be, please don't disown your children. And if you keep that communication line open, the child could fall back on you. Friends, especially if you have colleagues also, any flag in any relationship, if there is a violence, please take cognizance of it. If the parents did not snap her off totally, I'm sure Shraddha would have been here today. See, when you are subjected repeatedly to this psychological abuse, your self-esteem is thwarted, your self-confidence is absolutely butchered. You don't know who's going to come and help you. So you don't know really whom I should sound. If I sound and they don't respond, then probably I'll be losing my life, and not only my life, my primary relationships, the parents, the siblings, they will also be subjected to this kind of a violence. So basically, it is the work of the police also. Just because somebody sounded and then withdrawn the thing, why didn't you keep a vigil that this kind of thing had happened? Especially when there were physical injury, the girl was admitted in the hospital.
Absolutely.
Wasn't it within the purview of the responsibility of the authorities who are wearing the uniform to follow it up and find out? Very often we talk about this kind of support to be given to the elderly. I know about so many communities where elderly are definitely regularly subjected to physical violence.
Right.
There also, police says, we cannot do it. It's high time the society should take cognizance of this and come up that, we will keep a vigil.
Right.
If they had kept the vigil, probably person like Aftab would not have dared to chop off the body like this and talk about it freely, wash off all the evidences.
Right.
So please work it out in a way so that the message is sent to the community that you will not be spared if you have indulged in this kind of a crime.
We leave it at that. Thank you, Dr. Jayanti Rao, Ellen Rao, and Trisha Shetty for joining us on the broadcast and discussing this sensitive matter when it comes to this horrific crime that's taken place in the national capital. We'll continue to track all the developments. We're going to take a quick break. Up next, I'll join you for the late night edition.